It's Simon with Mabel again, folks, and spring has definitely arrived. We're up in Sheephouse Wood and she's leaping about like a baby gazelle. She's loving it. She has been stuck in a little bit recently. She's been getting walks, but due to work commitments it's not been woodland walks, so I've got her out again. She's about 10.5 months old now, so middle of April, so by the middle of June she'll be 1 year old. Come on then. And she really has just been leaping. One thing to update on, it's called Poraboo. It's a halty basically, the ones that go around the snout and stop the pulling, has been rubbing her across the top of the snout. So I've had a look underneath it. There doesn't seem to be any that rough areas, to be honest, so I can't quite work out how it's rubbed her, but she's got a few little areas and marks on the snout, which I think a thicker haired dog like a Labrador probably wouldn't suffer with, but because she's short haired she gets more of these problems. So I've just got her on the slip knot lead today. I'll give that a try for a couple of weeks and let that snout heal. But she's been fine. Her vulval area is growing and the nipples have started to develop across the belly, of course, so when she'll start her first season could be any month now, but she's looking really sleek. Jangelo bathed her yesterday. See if she's looking very, very clean and sleek. We've still got her on the obviously the pupper food that she was weaned onto. We tried, it's quite expensive at times, the Purina puppy, and it can go up to £43 for a 14 kilogram bag, but Amazon seem to be doing it for 31, 32 delivered, so as much as I'm not a big fan of using Amazon, it's much cheaper than Pets at Home, so I want to try and keep her on it. We did try her on something slightly cheaper when we couldn't get the Purina and she just didn't like it, so I'm going to try and wean her onto the adult Purina if I can afford. Should be able to. I want her on a decent food. And her mum was on that as well, so I think it's a food that must suit this breed. It's got probiotic in it as well, and it's good for dogs who potentially can have skin problems, which I believe these breeds can. Oh. Yeah, and summer is on the way. It's 15th of April and it's Good Friday, Easter Friday. Can't see the sun inside the woods too much, but it is there. I've got my jacket over my arm. This is me. And I've been working away doing my garden maintenance, my work, my company. Health seems to be fine. Still carrying that excess weight, but I have had an infection a couple of weeks ago that was going around the firm. Every lad seems to have had it. It's not been COVID as far as we can see. There's a big screeching noise ahead there. Some big bird in one of the trees. Mabel's heard it. Yeah, so had that infection. So I lost about 5 pounds initially doing this work, but then that's gone back on again, so I'm going to have to start and calculate my calories very, very soon. But as it warms up like this anyway, hopefully I shouldn't require as many calories. Oh. Love this wood now, so it's carpeted in tiny little spring flowers, marsh marigolds, I believe, buttercup. There's some white ones that I don't recognise all over the place. All the grass is coming through. And of course all the small bulbs as well. Lots of dead wood about. It's fantastic. I've not got myself back into the running app yet. I'm just feeling with 5 days work, physical work a week, I'm still too heavy. But it will come, it'll come back. So I've got all this sort of ground cover now. Ground elder, dandelion, just all sorts now. And of course it'll start to flower and spread. There's bluebells there. I've not seen a big swathe of bluebells yet in this wood, but I think that's possibly what these are here. We possibly had some already and I've missed them. I don't think they stay out that long, wild bluebells in woods, but there's some here dotted about. Just small ones, nothing overly big. I think that's what they are. So like I've talked about in previous videos, these old woodland, not necessarily classed as semi-ancient without getting a professional in to say the age of the trees and the ground cover and the flora. You do need a specialist in, but I would suggest that this woodland hasn't been touched a great deal for hundreds of years. I think this has just been left looking at it. There are ridges from water, there's possibly ridges where vehicles have been over the year, and this that I walk on now is some sort of raised track. So I think there has been industrial use in it. The name gives a clue, Sheep House Wood, and just above it, about a mile up the road, is Sheep House Farm, so it's connected in name, if nothing else, to a local farm. And there are plenty of natural larch trees. There's one there. But there is a broad mixture of trees in this woodland. I've not seen any evidence of badger setts in it, but I know badgers will obviously feed in it. That's a given. Deer we've definitely seen. There's an old nest box there with no top on. Been there years, so it looks like the bottom and the top have fallen out. And that's an old larch, but there's some much bigger larch down the bottom down here, and they're a native British tree larch, a native evergreen. There are these what look like hazel. Mate. This is larch here. I was watching a fantastic programme on Netflix last night, narrated by Barack Obama, about the world's national parks, and he was saying in his lifetime, in the last century and into this one, most of the world's national parks have been created, and I think he said 15% of the landmass of the world is now protected in some way, and I think he said 8% of the world oceans currently in 2022. And it showed a world map. It seemed more than that, to be fair, but there was lots and lots of land given over to preservation for natural species. And of course Yellowstone National Park in America being the first designated national wild space in the world, I believe. And then the Peak District National Park being the first in Britain. She's off after something there. She really is. And she's growing as well. Her leg length is really growing. She's really put some size on. Not weighed her recently, but her ribs aren't showing. And she's looking really, really fit and muscly. Toned more than anything. She will catch her ears on things and occasionally a tail. So far the tail hasn't been a problem. But yeah, the national parks, what a fantastic resource for the world to have. And each country then to bring in natural tourism. And they were looking at Patagonia last night on one of the programmes. And all down the eastern tip of the South American continent, Chile, and the Patagonian national parks down there. And lots of areas that were used for sheep farming. Fences have been taken down now. And the natural areas for their wild puma and hunted species out there like wild llama. There's a particular name for it and I've forgotten it. Being one of the puma's main prey. Just absolutely fantastic. And then they looked at the Wild Mountain Gorillas Reserve in Rwanda. So people are going to want to see these things. Yes, it brings into question how they get there and fossil fuel use, etc. But if we can protect them now and protect good areas of our oceans under law and protect them with patrols, there is that way of making human beings work with nature instead of just destroying it and working against it, which we've all got to adjust back to doing. There's something there as well which is gorgeous. I don't want to get too close instead of disturb something else. And all this lovely forest grass as well, it's soft looking. It's lovely. Another huge larch tree there. And you can tell with the wood, with the bark, the shape of the bark, and behind it there are Scotch pines or European pine. And they have a very red tinge to the bark, interspersed with hazel, silver birch, holly. There's an oak tree there. Such a wide variation in a few square metres. Sycamore here, saplings. You don't see many sycamore in this wood, but there's a few saplings here, so there must be a parent tree nearby because there's beech behind. She's taking a little drink out of the brook down there while she's down. Mabel. I'm going to take the high road and stay to the top part of this wood. Mate, come on. So we're getting delivered a letter catcher for our post box, because now at 10 months old we took her out of her dog crate and she's just in her dog bed now in the hall. Lovely big soft dog bed, but of course she's been chewing up the post, and she chewed up a cheque that came back from tax refund the other day for me. so I've had to request another cheque. But the guy said when I phoned him up at the Inland Revenue, obviously if we cash the cheque, if it does pass through her, they will cancel the other one to make sure that they've not sent 2 cheques out. So he was just joking, of course, but he's got dogs and he knew exactly what they like as puppies. It is a problem. Now she's eating this soft grass as well, a bit like cats, a bit of digestion. So she's having a nip on that. Come on then. And we've got baby rabbits at home as well, so our miniature lop rabbits, they've had babies. So there's only 2 that survived. There was one dragged out of the nest and one got damaged as well, so there's just 2, which is a small litter, but even so, the first litter, it's enough for the mum to take care of. And then the cockerels out of our ducks and hens that we have now been slaughtered and plucked. So that's what will happen in future to our cockerels. So I am going to get the probably towards the end of this month, I am going to get the egg incubator out and start them. I like to go and pick my eggs up and I can carry them home rather than ordering in the post from local breeders. You see, that's a larch there, that's one of the many mature larch trees in this wood. Fantastic specimen. Yeah, and I'm going to see if we get some unusual breeds. I've done ducks. I bought the 5 ducks to keep my duck company. They've all passed away, unfortunately, over the winter. They all looked fairly healthy, other than one. But I don't know whether they were just old or just not been looked after too well in the past, or whether they picked up bird flu. It's a tricky one to say, but mine hasn't. The one I bred from the egg is still nice and healthy. Or he seems it anyway, but he is a drake. He's got the curl on his tail at the end, so I won't be getting any duck eggs off him. But it's ideal because we have the pond and he free ranges around the garden, so any slugs, he'll get his beak under things and around things. Any slugs in the garden, he's brilliant at hunting out, so I'll keep him purely for that. Plus he's a lovely specimen to have around, and he doesn't cost a lot to feed. And I have 2 other hens. One of them's definitely a female, so hopefully I will start getting some eggs this year off her. The other one I'm still not sure, so I will need 2 or 3 more just to get some eggs in. So we're dropping down again as we do on this top corner at Sheep House. Got these little woodland marigolds here, like damp, semi-shaded areas, and they're all over in this wood. There's a massive patch of them over there behind this greenery of grass. Really lovely. One thing as well about walking this time of year in woodlands, or any time of year I guess, is that Mabel, it's that bit cooler on the forest floor, so the canopies are keeping you shaded. The leaves of the trees are getting all the sun to convert into energy for growth. But you're Mabel, this way, mate, come on. There's work going off down the bottom. Mate, come on. There's work going off in the bottom of the wood there. I can hear tree surgeons or something happening. So I'll work his way up here. yeah, it's an awful lot cooler. So it is a good area to exercise in as well, woodland. And I mean this sort of wood, if it was over in the Peak District, in these honeypot areas that they call them, where people flood to in the cars, this sort of wood would be crowded probably with people on a bank holiday weekend such as Easter. But this one I've seen nobody other than a workman further down. And I've given him a wide berth, so I've not really seen him, I've just heard him. So my point is generally that you don't really have to go too far to find isolated woodlands. You don't have to necessarily drive out to them. Even if you're in the city, you can take a cycle route just onto the edge of a city, or sometimes there's these woodlands right in the heart of cities. But if you want something a little bit isolating like this one is 12 miles from the city centre of Sheffield, this wood I walk in. Another big larch tree there. I don't know if the camera's picking that up. I can hear chainsaws down the bottom area there. So whether there is some thinning going off, because I did hear that far end of the wood had been bought by somebody else down that bottom end. So whether they are thinning and they've got a thinning licence, or whether they're actually putting something in, a walkway of some sort. We're coming up to the Knoll Beech, which has got the amazing twisted branch to its right. Really unusual, that. Massive old beech. So for these trees to have stood for at least a couple of 100 years, that's got to be, without being cut down, because there's no evidence that that's been pollarded or the top's taken off or trimmed down to the base for it to shoot again, like some forests have been managed for in the past. So you take a tree down after about 20 years, often sycamores, hazel, and then they grow boles or poles or stems, and you'd reuse them again. That's not had that, and that's been left untouched, which is a possible indicator from me as an amateur woodland lover that this woodland has been left very much untouched for a long time. And as I always point out when I come through here, only 1,000 metres down that way, there's quite a big industrial unit which now makes camper vans and horse boxes, horse trailers. Now what it has done in the past, I think it's been possibly part of the steel industry, I'm not sure. We've got a big history in this valley here, the Upper Don Valley. Come on then. Come on. So it is really nice every so often, obviously, to jump in the cart and go that little bit further with your dog, and we do. But when you've got a reservoir and woodlands like this right on your doorstep, for your general dog walking, this is all you need. She's getting absolutely mudded up in there, but she'll be in the reservoir as we get back down. So Betsy, my partner, met another dog owner who lives locally to us the other day with slightly smaller dogs, but she said, oh, let's let her off, and they were let off and had a really good play. So it is nice. I don't think this sort of breed will be great with another dog around in the house. Number one, our house isn't really big enough for 2 medium to larger dogs. Very energetic dogs. If it was a smaller dog, then I think she would just be too dominant with the size. Although she can be quite gentle, but in terms of play, she is quite rough. She's going for it now. So again, whether we breed her later on this year or early next year when she's roughly 1.5, we shall see. I think a nice breed would be to add a Labrador. So you've got a Weimaraner, Vizsla, Dor, Labrador. So 3 breeds. None of them Kennel Club registered. Hopefully the parents all Kennel Club registered, which hers have been. Very healthy dog, so you can tell she's healthy. I think the peaceful serenity as well of a woodland, especially when there's no other people around, it's just so good for you. Just you and your dog, or just you on your own. It's really, really nice. And all those other pressures that human beings invariably bring, because we are that sort of creature. We're always challenging each other. This can be your own little time. And me today now, I've got 4 days off work. Really fortunate. So I've got Easter Monday off as well as the weekend. So we'll make the most to recharge some batteries and feel a little bit more human. I think we'll take her up to the left here. I've no real intention of going through and over into the fields at the top today. I just want to keep her out for as long as possible. And then my stepson will bring her out later on for a good run as well. So making sure on some of these days she's getting really, really exhausted and well exercised. But it is really warm. This is t-shirts and shorts weather. I would say at the moment it's probably 16 degrees on the forest floor. Outside the forest it's probably 17, 18 easily. Here she comes. Bit of holly hanging over the track there, so I'll just go around. I'm not going to go too far up, but the wall and the stile there we looked for ages is there ahead of us. So an update for my my foreign land search as well continues. I've been emailing and speaking to Portuguese estate agents in central Portugal. One of them specialises in rustic land. But my main question was, and the question they always get, is are you able to live in a movable structure on this land? So he's given me the name of a solicitor, specialising in property law. So I'll make some contacts with them. That's my next stage. And then hopefully we'll go down in August when I'm on holiday. I've got about 10 days off, so we're going to plan to travel down and have a look around at certain pieces of land with a view to buying possibly later on in the year. One of the issues this year has been the lack of security staff at ports and airports, so there's been bedlam, people trying to get away, loads of cheap flights, everybody getting away on holiday, but massive queues at airports and ports. So I suppose the same might apply to the Channel Tunnel, which is what we're intending to use. It did just creep back into my mind again, as it always just recently, about Ireland. You've got the same issue there of getting across to Ireland. Very expensive to take a vehicle across to Ireland. It's £450 on the ferry return, I believe, at least. And that's very similar as to going across to Calais in France. So, and you just don't have the guaranteed weather out there that you would on the Iberian Peninsula, Portugal and Spain. So the search goes on there. I'm having a good look round to see, and then I've been amalgamating my pensions, all pensions together, which you get into your 50s is a very good idea to do. Lots of little workplace pensions dotted about that nobody really seems to keep an eye on. So I'm using the Pension Bee app at the moment, and I've transferred a couple of my government pensions into it for investment, but then I've got at least 3 other pension providers that I have pensions with, as well as my National Health Service pension. Mabel! So I'm still resisting the temptation at the moment to get some professional paid pension advice, because there'll be quite a fee there to pay, and I'm trying to work it out myself. Come on! My current employer has a pension with Aviva, which is one of the world's top pension companies and insurance, so I'm very happy with that. And then my next stage is I'm trying to work out how much extra I need to put in to amalgamate with my other private pensions, so I can potentially look to retire at no later than 60, which will be just over 6 years' time for me. It's still full of beans, nothing seems to be stopping her. So I think I'll wind this video down now. I hope 1 or 2 people eventually will pick them up. If you don't, that's fair enough. It's just my nice video log, which I'll store on YouTube for time immemorial. Hopefully, be able to look back on these lovely days. I'll catch you on another video, folks.